Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for I think this is the seventh community meeting for eLabFTW. This will be the last one before the summer. So the next one after this will be September. So this will be the last time that we get to share with all of you all for a little while. But we have a lot of exciting new features and tools to report on because, as many of you hopefully know, a new version of the software came out pretty recently, and that is the theme of today's meeting. I know that we've been sort of teasing all of the new things that were coming for a few meetings now, and so now we can finally say that those things are here and the bug fixes are underway and everything is getting streamlined. But we are going to have two presentations today that are going to talk about that. So everyone knows this is being recorded. So if you have to leave early or your colleague couldn't make it, you'll be able to find this later on our YouTube channel. And there'll also be an associated blog post that will just mention the things we talked about so that you can search. One thing that we did recently is we made it so that you can search through the different blog posts on the DeltaBlot website. So if you want to go through the previous community meetings to see what topics were discussed, now that is possible, and we'll be improving that over time. So I can give a few more updates, but maybe I'll do that after the two presentations that we're going to have today. So the first one is going to be Manuel Lera-Ramirez, who is the person who created OpenCloning, which is a tool for cloning, and it has recently been integrated into the new version of eLabFTW. And a lot of people are very excited about that, and it's a very powerful tool, so there's a lot to learn about how it works. So I think that we're really lucky today to get a explanation from the creator, and then later we're going to make some specific eLabFTW OpenCloning integration instructional videos. So there will be more resources available about this, but this is a great time to just see an overview of how it works. And we're going to just have a short presentation from Manu, and then we'll do a question period. And then after that, Nico, who's the creator and lead developer for DeltaBlot and eLabFTW, is going to go through the features in the new version, and we're going to be able to have a discussion about that. And some of that discussion might help us sort of visualize what kinds of things we'll be working on this summer. So we're looking forward to hearing from all of you about how you're doing with the software and what your research plans are. And yeah, just a nice check-in before we all get into research mode over the summer. So, is there anything I missed for introductory elements? I think we
Perfect.
got it.
Let's go.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Manu, I'll let you take it away. Thanks so much for being here.
Hello, yes, thanks for the invitation. So, yeah, I just have a short presentation to introduce the project, and then I will just show um, the features of eLabFTW that we have recently done. So, the project I'm working on is called OpenCloning. It's an open source web application for DNA engineering, and basically the problem or the kind of issue that we are trying to address is the documentation of the provenance of engineered DNA. So I know this is a diverse audience, so I'm going to try to keep it very simple, but if you have more specific questions, you can ask later for that. So very broadly, DNA engineering consists of combining fragments of existing DNA sequences to generate new ones. So it's a bit of copy and paste of DNA. And in this example here, I'm showing the construction of a new circular DNA sequence from two existing ones, and researchers have access to tools that can, for example, cut DNA at particular places, so they can cut fragments of sequences and then, for example, join them together to make a new sequence. So there are many ways to do this. There are different techniques, but ultimately it all comes to like combining existing DNA fragments to generate new ones. The issue is that we don't have an open standard to document the steps we follow to go from existing sequences to new sequences. And proprietary software with which you can do this kind of thing doesn't really allow you to export the history in a useful way that you can use outside of this proprietary software. So OpenCloning, it provides both a data model to represent these sequence provenance, so the steps we've followed to create a new sequence from existing ones, as well as a web application with an intuitive user interface to work with it. So very briefly, the idea of the data model is that every sequence comes from a source, and this source can be an external import. So the user provides a file, or the user requests a sequence from a repository. For example, AdGen is a popular repository for uh, sequences of plasmids, or for example, the user retrieves a genome sequence from the NCBI. So that is the provenance or the source of that sequence. But the source of a sequence can also be a manipulation that the user made. So they took some existing sequences, they did a manipulation in the lab, and they produced a new sequence. So you can see how connecting every sequence with its source, we can construct the history of a given sequence that we engineered in our lab. So that's basically what I want to say. The other thing I want to say is that apart from sequences, the users of eLabFTW who are doing molecular cloning, they will typically use something that is called a primer. So there is also support for this. And so a primer is a short fragment of DNA. So if you remember from your high school textbook, the way that DNA replication occurs is that you have a helix that is complementary. There is something in the cell that happens that separates the two helixes, and then the cell fills the gaps with complementary sequences to generate two identical copies of the original one. So PCR is something that kind of hijacks this mechanism and allows researchers to design short sequences that we call primers to amplify particular subsets of the DNA and then use that for their experiments. So this is something that is really important for people who are doing cloning, and there is support for this as well. So we can represent both the sequences that represent, for example, the sequences that researchers have in a cell line on a microorganism, or for example, as a standalone sequence in a test tube, but also we can represent these primers that they use to take fragments from those sequences. So with that, just gonna briefly list the things you can do with eLabFTW and OpenCloning. So today I'm not going to show a lot of what OpenCloning can do, but only what the integration allows you to do. And then if you are interested, you can have a look at the documentation of OpenCloning where everything else is shown. So using this integration, you can load sequences and primers from eLabFTW resources. So for example, if you have a resource in your database that has a file that contains a sequence, so this will typically be a gene bank file, FASTA file, DNA files. These are common file formats that are used to store sequences that your users will be familiar with. So you can load this sequence into the website, you can use them to design new sequences, and then save those to the database of eLabFTW as a sequence file, as a JSON file that contains also the history, not only the final product. And also there will be links between a new sequence and the sequences in the eLabFTW resources that were used. And then you can reload it. And there will be a way to represent cell lines and strains, but this is something that is coming in the documentation that hopefully will be live soon. So now that I've said this, I can show you how it works. So if you have an instance of eLabFTW where you have the tool enabled, it should be here in Tools DNA Cloning. So for example, here I have a bunch of resources in my database, and let's take, for example, this plasmid here. So this is a resource that, as part of its attached files, it has a sequence file here. It's called pdonor221.gb. This is a gene bank file. So if I come here to the OpenCloning window, I can click on Import from eLabFTW. And then here I'll be prompted to select the category. So here, of course, all the categories that I have are related to DNA, but if you have, microscope, whatever, it will also be listed here. Then we type the name of this resource that we know, and then we can choose the sequence that contains the sequence. We can choose the file that contains the sequence to load it. So we pick it, And when we click on submit, this will load the file into the interface so we can start cloning. We can start planning our experiment here. Another thing we can do is we can load sequences from files, so the user can just drop a file here and it will be loaded. And also we can retrieve sequences, for example, from a repository. So that's what we can do now. For example, we are going to get a sequence from a repository, in particular AdGene, which is a popular repository for plasmids. And this will make a request based on the identifier we provided and get us the sequence. And then the users can also explore it in a sequence editor here, but all this is covered in the videos that show how to use OpenCloning in general. So let's say now we have loaded a sequence that doesn't exist yet in our database in eLabFTW. So let's save it. So for that, we click on this floppy disk icon and we can change the name and we can select which type of resource we want to save it as. So in this case, we just want to save it as a plasmid and we click on submit. And you will see that it gives us a notification that this has been created successfully and it has switched from being blue to being green. And instead of the floppy disk, now we have this link that it's telling us that it's stored in eLabFTW. So now if I go back to my resources, I will see that this new resource has been created, which the name we gave it, and it has a gene bank file. So this is a generic sequence format for storing sequences and features within those sequences. And it also has a JSON file that has the history of this particular plasmid. So this history is not very long. We just load it from a repository, but if we look at it, we can see in the JSON that it tells us that the source of this plasmid is that it comes from AdGene, and it provides us a unique identifier of this plasmid in that database. So it is a way to trace back the provenance of these sequences. So then now, for example, let's say that the user wants to make a PCR, like we said before, starting from this plasmid. So they will have to design primers, so they will have to design sequences that allow them to extract a subpart of this plasmid. So you can do this in the interface. So you can say, okay, I want to use this to make a PCR, and I want to design primers for this PCR. And the purpose of these primers, in this case, we're just going to amplify. We just don't want to do anything else. So we select that, and we can select within the sequence what fragment we want to amplify. So in this case, this fragment of the plasmid. And then we can put some settings, etc. But we're going to take the basic ones. We click on Design Primers, and OpenCloning will design 2 primers for our example. So then we click on Save. They will be put in the PCR, and then we can do the PCR. We get the product here, and let's call it PCR product. And then we can save it again to eLabFTW, except this time, because we are using primers to create this, it will also allow us to save those primers. So for example, we're going to save this as a linear DNA, and it's asking us, do you also want to save the primers to the database? So we will say yes. We will save as primers, click on submit, and then if we go to our database, now we will see that we have created the PCR product, the 2 primers, and then when we go to the PCR product, we can see that the product is linked to its to the resources in the database that were used to produce it. So it has a link to the 2 primers and to the sequence that was used as a template for the PCR. And I think that's basically all I wanted to show. You can also create the primers directly yourself, so they don't have to be created through OpenCloning. You can create a primer directly in eLabFTW just by clicking on Create. Select the type you have associated, give it a name. call it my primer, and it just has to have a field that is called sequence. So I'm just going to put some random DNA sequence, and then now I should be able to load it from here as well. So I can go to primers, import from eLabFTW, a primer, my primer, and you can also import it into the session. So that's basically like a very, very quick overview of the features. And, I think there will be good documentation for this soon. Have a look. If you have some questions, please don't hesitate, to ask for me. I'm very happy to, talk to you if you're thinking of implementing it in your institution. If you have some users that are wanting to get started with it, I'm happy to give a presentation for them to kind of like help them migrate from what they use now to using this. So yeah, just I'm very keen to, help you transition from whatever solution you have now to using OpenCloning. So thank you. And yeah, this is my acknowledgement uh, slide here.
Thank you, Manu.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we have a few questions. Menu, can you see the question and answer box?
I think I should be able to. Let me see.
Okay, I can read them out loud if you want, because the viewers cannot see them. So how about I'll read
Okay.
them? Okay, so
Okay.
Hussein says, what can I do when my existing plasmids don't have a JSON file?
So yes, so if you have a resource that you created before OpenCloning existed, you can still load it in the interface because you will be prompted to select a file from within the attachments of the resource. So as long as you have a FASTA file or a GenBank file or something that contains a sequence, you should be able to load it.
Okay, cool. And then Gudrun says, currently in version 5.2.4, all users, regardless of their authorizations, can add and delete new compounds in the Tools tab. The same applies to inventory root elements and children entries, except that the root elements are permanent once they are created. Are there plans to restrict these authorizations or to give the possibility to set the authorizations manually via the sysadmin panel?
I'll answer this later. Let's focus for now on the open cloning.
Okay. And then another question from Hussein, which says, when creating your own primer, OpenCloning checks for the extra field called sequence and then takes it from there.
Exactly, yes. So what it will do is like it doesn't the resource itself doesn't have to be from a category called primer. It just has to have a field called sequence, and that sequence must contain only ACGT values. So it has to contain DNA base pair characters.
Great. Any other questions
Can you
for
work
Mandy?
with RNA?
So, I mean, the thing is, typically people will not use RNA in a cloning experiment. So for now, not really. But if there is like a use case that appears, it should be relatively straightforward.
Okay.
There's another question from Garrett who says, so is OpenCloning a separate software that is simply made available within eLabFTW, but with extra links to eLabFTW?
Yeah, that's about it. It's a separate software. It's a software on its own developed by Manu. You can go on opencloning.org and you have the software. It's just that when it's embedded inside eLabFTW, then you have access to the possibility of interacting with your existing resource database and, as Manu showed, to save things from and to OpenCloning. So it becomes much more convenient if you already have all your plasmids, for instance, in eLab.
Great. Okay, and then one more from Hussein says, GB, FASTA, and DNA are all file formats that work with OpenCloning.
So yes. So you can load all these file formats. You can also load ape files, which are a bit more obscure. But yeah.
Great. And then there's one in the chat which says, this is Marcel who says, can I add phosphorylated 5Ns?
No, so this is something that I know, for example, in Snapgene or other cloning software, you have this. In as of now, in OpenCloning, you cannot do that.
Okay. And then Suzanne asks, do you need to create the resources plasmid, linear DNA, primer, and primer in eLabFTW, or will it be created upon integration of OpenCloning?
Uh, no, you don't have to, and the names are arbitrary, you know. I mean, in my list there were only those because I created those resource types, but if you have, I don't know, microscope or sample, they will also be listed there. Just it won't be meaningful to save it as that, but the only requirement to load something, a sequence, is that it has an attachment with a sequence file, and the only requirement for something to be loaded as a primer is that it has a sequence, how do you call it, like field with a valid sequence value, but they don't have to be named any special way.
Okay, great. And then Alexander asks, is there doku specifically about the integration of OpenCloning? Anything?
It's coming anytime soon, so yes,
Doku.
should be ready this week.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Manu. It seems amazing. It's not the kind of science that I personally am familiar with, but I can really see how being able to track all of the different steps in a project would be really important. And so we're really happy to see how it can work with eLab in this way. Um, and then Alexander says one more thing. I guess this is a question. I don't understand how this is a question. Stuff
Uh,
like to see what's minute at a field.
yeah, it's just about the documentation kind.
Just like saying that you'd like to know more
Yeah.
about this. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, well, thank you so much, Manu. Yeah, everyone check out Open Cloning both in and outside of eLabFTW. And when we have more documentation and videos and stuff, we'll post all that on our social media and in our newsletter. Maybe, Nico, do you want to take this question right now, or do you want to do your presentation first?
Yeah, I'll take the question. So, um, it is true that currently the compounds database is a common database for everyone on the instance. And then users would link their own resource to a particular compound. And so, in fact, today in the chat, Alexander, who is here with us, he feels like a spiritism stuff who is here with us. Alexander mentioned that it was important that we would prevent deleting a compound if it is linked to something. Knowing that this deletion is in any case a soft delete, meaning that the compound will stay there, and in fact even the link stays there. So we don't see the link anymore, but it's still there. So it's something that, you know, there is still some rough edges on this. So we are getting to it, and based on user feedback. And same with the inventory. It's there, it's working. There are still some things that need to be added, such as editing easily the name of something, moving things around, listing things more easily. So it will come, no worries. We just need more time to get to it, but it's coming, yeah. So regarding, I plan to restrict this authorization or give the possibility to set the authorization manually via the sysadmin panel. Maybe. So for the moment, I think it's fine that everyone can add compounds or delete compounds if the compound is not linked to anything, knowing again that we keep a trace of the compound that was added at some point. So we will see how it evolves and based on user feedback and
Yeah, so one new thing that has happened since our last community meeting is we've started a new club that is specifically for RDMs, so research data managers and other kinds of data professionals at institutions and companies and entities that use eLabFTW. We just realized that a lot of people were working on similar projects and had similar questions, and we figured that it would be cool to have a meeting space, and eventually there will be like a website, like sort of a hub for people to share information. And it seems as though, I mean, there are a lot of specialists about really specific elements of supporting users of eLabFTW at this point, which is really cool to see. So we're hoping that people will be able to share information about onboarding, especially assisting users who've used only paper notebooks before, because that's a pretty common sort of type of conversation, I guess, is how do you support these kinds of users? And also, we're working on making a template library, which is something that a lot of people seem to want. And so hopefully that will be unveiled at our next RDM meeting, which is at the end of the month. So I'll just put the link for the RDM Club newsletter. So it has its own newsletter so that you can sign up for that and then be made aware of when the next meeting is going to happen.
So basically, there are many things that moved in this new version, of course, like always, we always work on many different things. So for instance, one thing is that we finally got rid of this search page that was with a clunky interface, and it was there for a long time, and it has been removed. And so what I did is I added simply the search bar on top of the list of things that you can search from. There is still something I feel that I need to add again, is that when you are on an entry, I think I will add a little search button here so that you can search for something else without needing to go back to this page, because that was possible before and now it's not, because I removed the bar from the toolbar on the top, but I will add it back because it's convenient. So now you see the search page, you have the advanced search feature on the search page. And so this advanced search works with keywords separated with a colon and then the thing that you're searching for. And you see that you have some helpers here that allow you to filter between things. And so this was already available before, but it was kind of hidden into the search page. And so now I guess it's much more evident. And keep in mind that you can do these kind of things where you have n or you have parentheses and everything. So it's the same syntax as before. You have the help here that shows you all the different things that you can use to search specifically for something in the query, or you don't have to use that. You can just type anything and it will work directly. So the search page also has improved in terms of user experience. For instance, now the tag thing already, I mean, immediately reloads the page with the content of the things that you're searching. Before you had to press go because for some issue. The scope button also moved there. And we still have this table layout that will probably evolve also in the future. So there is a branch of the software where I'm trying to implement this kind of table, which I think is pretty convenient because you have little filters there and you can move columns around and you can pin columns to the side. Like you can have these two columns on the side there and then move with these other columns in there. So this column stuff, I think I will try first to implement it with the sysadmin panel here, because we have this table here that is working, okay, but it's not the best. And so I cannot show you this branch now, but basically it takes all this information and puts it in a more responsive and searchable and better table. And so what we have in mind is that probably this table mode here that we're listing, we will remove this homemade table basically that we have here, to get something a bit better. And also, I think it could also open the door to having more columns, because some of you have been asking for some columns there, but for the moment we are kind of limited. So yeah, this will change a bit. The scheduler now has his own tab, so we realize it's a tool that many use. There is a little bugs right now with the scheduler, where in some conditions some users cannot see all the booking events from other people from other team on the same event. So Mustafa is working on that right now, or maybe not now because he's in the meeting, but just before and just after. We added also the filter events by owner, which is something that the users also requested to be able to filter particular events. And so we continue to work with the events. There is also the possibility to have a layout in as a timeline. That's something new also, and the possibility to show weekends or not, depending if you like to work on weekends or not. So, as you saw already, we have the compounds database, and the compounds database comes completely empty. Why is that? Is because the compounds database is several tens of gigabytes, and it's literally millions of compounds. So we make the choice of shipping an empty table so that people would be able to import their own compounds. Some chemistry labs, they took what they did is basically they imported a big CSV file with many compounds, and it starts as a good basis for everyone to already have a few compounds in there. Otherwise, I guess it's either step by step, like every time you need to make a link with a compound, you would add a new compound from there, and then you create a resource from it, or you link it, or you have already some compound database or maybe some Excel file somewhere or some old school thing that was created before. Just know that you can import from CSV. Maybe I should add it somewhere in there that you can do the import from CSV. But this needs to be done from the command line. So you need to give it to your IT service or sysadmin service, or to us if you're hosted by Deltablot, so that we can do the import. And we can do the import while completing the data from PubChem. So for instance, if you have a CSV with only the cast number, it's enough, because we will fetch all the other properties from PubChem every time we import the compound from the CAS. Also, just so you know, when you have a SMILES representation of the molecule, this SMILES representation will get sent to a fingerprinter service that will be able to add a fingerprint and save it along with the compound, so that it becomes searchable in this menu, where you can do search by substructure. Regarding the DNA cloning, as someone mentioned in the chat, if you see an error page here, or if the menu is grayed out, it means that this add-on or this plugin, I'm still not sure which term is the most appropriate, is just simply not deployed on your institution, but it's really just a matter of configuring this side container and configuring eLab to work with it. There is no pricing, there is no licensing issues. So just ask your sysadmins to implement it. Regarding all the changes also, so like we make every time there is a major release, we make a blog post. So there is a link here in the what's new, so you can look at the what's new link here. And what do we have also here? We have this new feature to force permission for a derived experiment. And of course, the template page is now on its own page. So before it was kind of tucked away inside the user control panel. At some point also, some of you remember it was in the team page. So now it has its own template. We're also considering moving the resource categories that is now present in the admin panel. Here, it's present here. We will probably move this stuff here as the template, as the experiment, as the resource, because I think like very early I took this arbitrary decision to make resource categories only editable by admins, which works, and for some case it's all right, and that's what people want actually, that users cannot mess with these resource categories, but maybe it could be more optional that you allow them or not to do that. Anyway, so now you have the templates that are here present properly as a proper instance, and in the templates you have two sets of permissions. You have the permissions for the template like before and the permissions for the dev experiment like before. The difference now is that you have this that appeared, which allow you to lock down the permission, meaning that now if I create a new experiment from that template, I cannot edit the permissions anymore. So this is something that replaces the old force permission thing that was present in the admin panel. I cannot show you something that disappeared, but yeah, it was something, and we thought with discussing with different people that it was a nice approach to control a bit more the permission system, for instance, to prevent an accidental publication of something confidential by a student that would be careless, for instance. As you can see also in this development version, because here you're seeing the development version, I moved down the permission in its own little thing. I will probably put it after the extra fields. The point is that there was someone that opened an issue on GitHub this weekend, and this person thought that it was a bit weird that when you open a new experiment, and in fact I can show you on the demo, like before when you opened a new experiment, you had most of the page that was used for, let's say, administrative fields, like the category, the status, the tags, this kind of stuff. And so the work was basically to make this main text field much more present in the page and present higher in the page. So now, as you can see, the main text is much higher, and because it's kind of the main content of the page that you want to access, so it makes more sense. And so I moved the category and status in there on top of the title, and it's similar to how it's represented in the view mode. So you have the category, you have the status, and then you have the title. If you have a custom ID also, it will be there. And so this thing now is there. So yeah, basically that's for the 5.3 version. And what do we have next? Yeah, so Moose did some nice work on the extra fields so that now you can edit extra fields directly. Before you had to remove them to edit them. Oops, I misclick. So if you create an extra field, now you have this little button here to edit it. So that is nice. And then you see also which type it is. And same with if you have a drop-down menu also. If you make an extra field that is a drop-down menu, and you need to add more choices to this drop-down menu, you can click Edit, add your choice, and then it works. So again, yeah, this is the kind of nice to have quality of life improvement that happen the release after the release, so similar to the comment that we had on the compound and the inventory. We'll get there. It's just that we tend to release things soon so that users can get feedback to us early on. What do we have? So compound database we saw, fingerprinting, inventory, containers, QR code generation. Yeah, so it earned a few more options to be more versatile. Regarding the exclusive mode, so previously there was a button in there that you could click to say, okay, I only want myself to be able to change this, to edit this entry. So now it's automatic, meaning that whenever I open an entry, I open it in exclusive edit mode, meaning that some other user here, if they try to access this entry in edit mode, they will get a warning that will tell them, no, you cannot go in edit mode because Toto is editing it. So that's it's also something that I think is nice, and it was a custom development request from a university. So thank you to them to promote this kind of new features. The main text editor, yeah, you have a preview button also here that appeared in the main text. So this was a contribution by Forever Floating. So it's always nice to see users contributing to the code. We are always open to code contribution. Many API improvements, such as that now you can have a comma-separated list of value for the different filters, the query string filters that you can have. Before you could not do that. More option also for the DB install for the sysadmin that deploy a lot of instances. So yeah, I see that there are many things in the chat and everything, so I will look at it now. So first, the Q&A. Anonymous attendee. If there is no permission management around inventory and compounds are at the moment, and if it will not be available on the short to medium term, how about giving sysadmins the option to disable these tools for now? Our instance is far too big for things available to edit for everyone, effectively blocking the 5.2 update. Yeah, I think having a setting to disable the compound tab could be interesting, but I also don't feel it's a big issue if people can add and delete stuff right now on the compound table. For the inventory, I understand like how it could be problematic, but anyway, we will see. What we are aiming for is to release the 5.3 soon. Also, we want to have a good regularity on publishing releases. We're always working on something new, and we will consider it anonymous attendee. We will see what can be done. I can understand how it, for a big instance, it could be blocking the 5.2 update. So let's see what we can do.
And maybe that particular user can send us an email to get in touch and we could find some sort of workaround for them.
Yeah. So, John, I see that one of columns in the compounds tab is teams. Does this mean that the compound tab is visible for the complete university and not only for the team you are part of? Yes, the compounds table is for everyone. It's at the instance level. But when you create a resource, for instance, for a compound, so I will create now what is that? Is ethane bis tioic acid SS diethyl ester. So this compound, that is, let's say, an instantiation of this compound here. This resource, I can restrict the permission to only members of the team, which by default it is. So it allows you to have kind of best of the both world, meaning that you only have one common or instance level database of compounds that stores also the safety information. And then all the different teams can link to this compound database, and they can keep the confidentiality of having their own chemical compound list with the usual permission system that we have. Basically, you have this compound section here that exists that allows you to link a resource or an experiment to a compound. And so, yeah, it's basically it's a choice. Huh? We could also have made the choice to have one compound database per team, but we chose to go with one single compound database for everyone on the instance, and then the possibility to link resources or experiment to that compound.
Hey, Nico, before you take the next question, is there a way to make it so that I can message everyone? Because I'm just realizing the links that I'm posting are only visible to the hosts and panelists.
But everyone can use the chat normally.
Yeah,
So you
apparently the hosts and panelists can only message other panelists unless they're
okay, okay,
like the
okay, okay.
main
I
host.
see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Host and panelist can message everyone. Okay, should be good now.
Great, thank you. Okay, carry on.
Hussein, what was the plan with resource categories? You want to remove it from the admin panel. What's the reason for this? So one reason is in terms of how the code is structured and how the page is structured, is that we have these four entity types. We have two concrete entity types, which are experiments and resources. And then we have templates that are templates for experiments. And then we have resource categories, which are also templates, but for resources. The only difference, and it's a bit tricky difference that maybe I would like to erase, is that you can only have one kind of resource category, meaning that these category resources, they are templates. They are very similar to the rest. It's just that you can only have one plasmid. You can only have one chemical compound. And so we will see how it gets to work. And it's just that for the moment, this interface here is inside the admin panel. So we still use the same code to show all of this, but it's still, for instance, here you see it's missing the possibility to add a file. You can add a file on an experiment, you can add a file on template, you can add a file on resources, but for some reason, you cannot add a file on resource categories. And so we basically want to homogenize both the user interface and also the code behind it so that it becomes more fluid and also more easy to reason with because you don't have to wonder yourself, but why as a user can I not add a new type of resource category? Don't fear, we will try to make it such as you still have the options to keep the whole behavior, meaning that only an admin would be able to create a new resource category if that's what you're fearing. Garrett, visibility and read-write are quite important. Could this be kept at the top of the empty space that's still there? Maybe reduce the option to icons like the icons used in the scope menu. Yeah, it's not a definite stuff. It's really like very fresh. I mean, we are Tuesday. I'm still working on it. I started probably in Sunday. I think the issue was done on Sunday. So it's also, always difficult to try and find a good user interface that works for everyone, because for some people the permissions are quite important, and that's why also it was prominent. But I feel they are less important than the main content. And yeah, we have to find a way to make them accessible, so they should not be hidden in a submenu, but still not take too much space because sometimes it's just too much. So we will see what we manage to do. Alexander, you briefly mentioned your philosophy about stable release. This is not new, of course, but partly because of this, I usually wait a new minor release to deploy in production. Yeah, you're right. I worry that this approach is problematic as soon as there is an urgent security release that forces sysadmin to upgrade regardless of open issue questions that are not minor in the new version. Of course, getting feedback from a wider audience is important, but are there any thoughts on how to better facilitate that, feature flag, backports, etc.? So let's say now there is a huge major vulnerability that is discovered in eLab. I would make a patch on the 5.1 version. I think it would make sense for big vulnerabilities so that you don't have to upgrade to the latest version to fix the vulnerabilities. So I think that answers your question. But it's true that we don't have LTS. We cannot maintain several different branches because the software itself is pretty complicated in the sense that there are many packages, there are many dependencies. We have the dependencies in JavaScript, we have the dependencies in PHP, we have the dependencies in the Docker container. And it's very different from just a simple C program that would be a standalone, more or less. So yeah, basically we move on as much as possible. We try our best to make new release that are complete and featureful, but there is always some things to do. For some experiments, it may be even useful to have the extra fields on top of the main text. What is your opinion on making the structure of experiment and resources customizable so that you can move all entries, main text, permission, extra field around? Yes, Anna, this is in fact mentioned in the recent discussion that prompted this new UI rework. It's something that we already thought about to allow users to move around the different things. If they never used the JSON editor, they should be able to hide it or put some higher than others. Regarding the extra fields, what you can do also is that you can hide the main text. So let's say if you have only extra fields, you can have a template with only extra fields, and then your resource will be only, you see, like, so there is the permission now, but there is no main text entry. It's completely hidden. It's completely not there. So this is something that I know some users are using where they have really a lot of different extra fields. And also, it's still in the work for the new version, but there will be the possibility to have multi-line for the text thing. And in fact, yeah. So here you will be able to have multi-line text. So maybe that could also be helpful if you need to have more content for text extra field. So it's still not fully featured like the main text is, with all these options and all the different things that you can have with that. That probably never will. But multi-line for text extra field is coming in the new version. Jan, do you still plan to update the procurement request? Yeah, the procurement request needs some love. I think it was not, we didn't work on it for a long time. So yeah, we are trying our best to improve all the different aspects of the software. Unfortunately, we are a limited team of developers, so we can only go as far as human possibly can go. Feel free to email us if you have specifics that are missing for procurement requests. Henri, is it possible to filter resources with or without containers? So not in the user interface. No, so it's not possible. I mean, it's possible, of course, in the backend, like everything, but not in the user interface. So yeah, if you feel that would be interesting for you, we could probably have a filter here, an advanced filter that would be with container, yes, no. That is totally something that could be implemented. Okay, so that was for the Q&A. For the chat, I think there is no question in the chat, and if there is, I see Nico, but not the screen. I see the screen, but not Nico. I hope the screen is nice for everyone. Sydney, no. Okay. Yeah, let's go. Oh, that was intense.
Well, there's a lot of
Um,
new features, so thank you
yeah,
for explaining all of those things. Yeah, we are available for questions as always. I put the link to the Gitter chat. If you're using that, you can connect with us there. People should also be able to find the link to the newsletter and to the RDM Club newsletter. Follow us on all the social medias, and we will schedule the next community meeting for probably mid to late September. Um, let's see, there's one more question in the chat there.
yeah, it's a new thing from the new version that now when you import a CSV, so some columns like the title, like the body, like the date will get imported as a date, as the title, as the main text, and the rest of the column will be interpreted as text extra field. So that's also something that a lot of users were requesting. And so now what we need to implement is also the other way around, is that when you export a CSV, you will get all the extra fields in a different column, which is also something that users are asking. On top, of course, of the calculations in the table, which will
We are
eventually
on it.
come. Yeah,
Yeah, we know, we
eventually.
are working on that. It has been really great to talk to various people over the last little while about the different features that they want to see, and I think that this addresses a lot of people's demands. So hopefully it's fun for everyone to have those things. And I know the scheduler has a lot of new improvements that should be good for people. And yes, promising new stuff in the next one. Yeah. Okay. Well, any final words before we close off this meeting? Seems like we
Aubergine?
covered a lot.
No,
Aubergine is a good word.
it's a good word, yeah.
It's a good word. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us for this, and I hope you have a really good and productive and hopefully restful summer months. And we will see you at the next meeting in September.
Yeah, have a good summer, everyone.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
And
Bye.
thank you so much, Manu, for presenting. It's really cool, open cloning.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.